The sun slowly rose over the great city of Rome. Its golden light touched the massive stone walls of the mighty Colosseum. From a distance it looked beautiful, powerful, and glorious. Thousands of people were already walking toward it. Merchants shouted, children laughed, and soldiers pushed through the crowds. Today was a special day. The Roman games were about to begin. For the people of Rome, the games were entertainment. They were excitement. They were pride. But behind the cheering crowds and the loud celebrations, there was a dark reality few people ever thought about. Inside the Colosseum, workers rushed everywhere preparing the arena. Sand was spread across the floor. Wooden gates creaked open and closed. Beneath the arena was a hidden world called the Hypogeum, a maze of dark tunnels and cages. Inside those cages sat men who knew they might not live to see the sunset. They were gladiators. Some of them were prisoners of war. Others were slaves captured from distant lands. A few had even volunteered, hoping to earn fame and freedom. But no matter who they were, once they stepped into the arena, their lives belonged to the crowd. One young gladiator sat quietly in his small cell. His name was Marcus. Marcus had once been a farmer from a distant province of the Roman Empire. His village had been destroyed during a Roman conquest, and he had been taken prisoner. Now he wore armor, carried a sword, and waited for the moment when the gates would open. His hands trembled slightly. Across the hallway, an older gladiator named Titus leaned against the wall. His body was covered in scars from dozens of battles. "You're nervous," Titus said calmly. Marcus nodded. "How can I not be?" Titus chuckled softly. "Listen carefully," he said. "The crowd out there doesn't care who you are. To them, we're just a show. Like actors in a play." Marcus swallowed hard. "And what happens if the crowd doesn't like the show?" Titus looked at him for a moment, then said quietly. "Then you don't leave the arena." Above them, the sound of thousands of voices began to rise like thunder. The audience had filled the Colosseum. Nearly 50,000 people packed the stone seats. Senators sat in the best places near the arena floor. Wealthy citizens and officials surrounded them. Higher up, the ordinary people of Rome squeezed together in excitement. Food vendors walked through the crowd selling bread, olives, and wine. People laughed and talked as if they were attending a festival. But what they were about to witness was not a festival. Trumpets suddenly blasted through the air. The games had begun. Massive gates opened, and a grand parade marched into the arena. Gladiators, warriors, exotic animals, and performers entered one by one. The crowd roared with excitement. Marcus walked among the other fighters, trying to hide the fear inside him. When they reached the center of the arena, the gladiators raised their weapons toward the emperor's seat. The crowd chanted loudly. The emperor gave a simple nod. And just like that, the games began. The first events were animal hunts. Hunters fought lions, bears, and wild boars brought from distant parts of the empire. The crowd cheered wildly as animals were killed in dramatic fashion. For them, it was thrilling. For the animals and the fighters, it was survival. Hours passed. Blood soaked into the sand. The crowd demanded more. Finally, it was time for the main event. Gladiator battles. Marcus felt his heart pounding as guards approached his cell. "This is your turn," one of them said coldly. The gate opened. Marcus stepped into the blinding sunlight of the arena. The noise was overwhelming. Thousands of people screamed and shouted around him. Across the arena stood another gladiator. He was larger. Stronger. More experienced. Marcus realized something terrible. Only one of them might leave the arena alive. The horn sounded. The battle had begun. Marcus raised his shield as the other gladiator charged forward. The clash of metal echoed across the Colosseum. Sparks flew as swords collided. The crowd loved every second. They stood, shouted, and demanded blood. Marcus barely blocked a powerful strike and stumbled backward. Sand kicked into the air beneath his feet. The other gladiator smiled. To him, this was just another fight. But to Marcus, it was life or death. He remembered his family. His home. The quiet fields where he once worked under the sun. He didn't want to die here. With a sudden burst of courage, Marcus lunged forward. Their swords clashed again and again. Sweat ran down his face as the battle continued. Finally, Marcus managed to knock the other gladiator to the ground. The man dropped his weapon. The entire Colosseum fell silent. Now the decision belonged to the crowd. They raised their hands and shouted their judgment. Some wanted mercy. Others demanded death. Marcus looked toward the emperor. For a moment, everything felt frozen. Then the emperor slowly raised his hand. What happened next would change Marcus's life forever. And reveal the brutal truth behind Rome's most famous entertainment. The Colosseum was silent for only a moment. Then the emperor made his decision. His hand slowly moved downward. The crowd erupted into thunderous cheers. Marcus understood immediately. The defeated gladiator would not be spared. Marcus stood frozen, his sword trembling in his hand. The man on the ground looked up at him with tired eyes. He knew what was coming. This was the cruel rule of the Roman games. The crowd demanded blood. Marcus hesitated for a second. But the guards around the arena were watching closely. If he refused, he could face the same fate. With a heavy heart, Marcus raised his sword. One quick strike ended the fight. The crowd roared with excitement. To them, this was victory. This was entertainment. But for Marcus, something inside him had changed forever. Servants quickly dragged the body away while workers spread fresh sand over the bloodstains. The arena had to look clean for the next battle. Because the games were far from over. Marcus was escorted back into the dark tunnels beneath the Colosseum. His legs felt weak. The noise of the cheering crowd still echoed in his ears. Titus was waiting near the entrance. "You survived," Titus said with a slight smile. Marcus didn't return the smile. "I killed a man," Marcus whispered. Titus sighed. "Yes. And tomorrow you might have to do it again." Marcus leaned against the cold stone wall. "How can people enjoy this?" Titus looked upward toward the arena above them. "Because it distracts them," he said quietly. Marcus frowned. "Distracts them from what?" "From their problems. From poverty. From politics. From the struggles of life." Titus paused before continuing. "The Roman games are not just entertainment. They are power." Above them, another battle began. The roar of the crowd shook dust from the ceiling. Marcus slowly began to understand the dark truth. The games were designed to control the people. When the citizens of Rome were given food and exciting games, they stopped asking questions. They stopped challenging their rulers. This idea later became known as bread and circuses. Give the people free food. Give them brutal entertainment. And they will stay loyal. Days turned into weeks as Marcus continued fighting in the arena. Each battle made him stronger, faster, and more skilled. But it also hardened his heart. He saw things that haunted his dreams. Men fighting wild animals with little chance of survival. Prisoners forced into the arena with no weapons. Even staged executions performed for the crowd's amusement. The Colosseum was not just a stadium. It was a machine of death. And yet the people of Rome loved it. One evening after the games ended, Marcus and Titus sat quietly in the underground tunnels. Marcus asked the question that had been haunting him for weeks. Did any gladiator ever escape this life? Titus nodded slowly. A few earned their freedom after many victories. How? By surviving long enough, and becoming famous enough. Marcus stared at his sword. Then a dangerous idea began forming in his mind. What if I win enough battles to earn freedom? Titus looked at him carefully. It's possible, he said. But very few live long enough to reach that moment. Marcus clenched his fist. I will. Over the next months, Marcus fought again and again in the arena. His determination grew stronger with every battle. The crowd began to recognize him. They cheered his name. He became one of the rising stars of the Colosseum. But with fame came greater danger. The battles became more brutal. More dramatic. More deadly. The Roman games demanded constant excitement. And excitement often meant death. One day Marcus faced his most dangerous challenge yet. The gates opened. Across the arena stood not one opponent, but three. The crowd roared wildly. Marcus realized the truth. The games were never meant to be fair. They were designed for spectacle. But Marcus had something the crowd didn't understand. Hope. He fought with every ounce of strength he had. The battle was long and exhausting, but somehow Marcus managed to defeat all three opponents. The crowd went insane with excitement. Even the emperor stood in surprise. Marcus dropped to one knee, exhausted but alive. Weeks later, something incredible happened. Marcus was called to stand before the emperor himself. In front of thousands of cheering spectators, the emperor raised a small wooden sword. It was called a rudis. It symbolized freedom. Marcus had done the impossible. He was no longer a gladiator. The crowd cheered as Marcus walked out of the Colosseum for the final time. But as he stepped into the streets of Rome, he turned back and looked at the massive structure one last time. The people still celebrated. The games would continue. New gladiators would fight. New lives would be lost. Because behind the glory of Rome's greatest entertainment, there was always darkness. And that was the true reality behind the Roman games. If you enjoyed uncovering the hidden history behind the Roman games, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and join us for more incredible stories from the past. Every ancient monument has secrets, and we're here to reveal them. Classical building.